Welcome everyone to the September 19th City Council public hearing. We have 4 items up for this evening, and the first public hearing is an ordinance concerning dogs on Alder Street. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. In 1996, the City Council adopted a ban on dogs in the commercial area surrounding 13th and Alder. Dogs owned by residents of that area are exempted from the ban. Tonight, a hearing is being held on a proposed ordinance to lift the ban on dogs in that area. Lieutenant Doug Mozan, who was one of the officers working on East 13th when the ordinance was enacted, is here to answer questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to open the public hearing. Those wishing to speak during the public hearing must submit a completed request to speak form to the information desk prior to the beginning of the public hearing. When you come to the podium, please give your name, your city of residence, and your ward if you know it. You'll have 3 minutes to comment. There are lights on the podium. The yellow light indicates you have 15 seconds to complete your comments. The red light indicates the end of your time to talk. First person up tonight on item 1 is Sheila Daughtry, followed by Neva Becker. Sheila?
My name is Sheila Daughtry. I reside in Eugene, Oregon. I'm the owner of Rainbow Optics and president of the University District Business Association. I've been part of the university area for over 26 years. Broken windows, panhandling, graffiti, drug deals, drunks passed out in front of our businesses. That is how the university area looked in the early 1990s. A small band of people started working on a project to create a safe environment for our campus area. We have succeeded. The university area now enjoys over 60 small businesses to serve our community. We have 100% occupancy. We have new construction featuring upscale apartments and more retail. These businesses employ approximately 750 people in our area, not including Sacred Heart University District. We go unnoticed because things run smoothly. We have created a robust environment where people feel safe to shop, dine, and attend both school and events in our area. It has come to my attention that the City Council is considering repealing a dog ordinance that has been in place since 1996. This would be a mistake. This ordinance, in conjunction with a number of other creative solutions we have implemented, provide a safe environment for our community, as well as a great place for parents to send their children to college. Because of this ordinance, I no longer fear walking down 13th Ave passing big, unattended dogs tied up to lampposts, bike racks, or parking meters. Because of this ordinance, I no longer fear crossing paths with the transient blocking the corner of 13th and Alder armed with a dog. And because of this ordinance, I no longer have the frustration of cleaning up dog waste in front of our business before we open for the day. I ask you, please, do not let us return to the days when my customers would call me and ask, is it safe to go down to campus?
Thank you. Neva Becker is next, followed by Jim Williams.
Good evening. My name is Neva Becker. I currently reside in Springfield. However, I grew up in Eugene, and I work in the area where the dog ordinance is in place currently. I wanted to tell you a little bit about what I remember as a teenager and the area that we're talking about. I used to ride the bus down, and I would get off at the corner of 13th and Hilliard because there was an art store that I wanted to go to, and then I wanted to go down to the duck store. What I remember most vividly about those experiences was getting off the bus and immediately being panhandled aggressively. A lot of the times the people had animals with them, dogs oftentimes on a rope. Maybe the rope was being held onto, maybe it was tied around something. Oftentimes it wasn't. And what I recall is feeling fearful, feeling nervous walking down the street. I didn't look up and make eye contact with people because I just wanted to get from point A to point B. We now have an environment where people feel safe. People feel like it's part of a community, and it feels comfortable to be in our area. Students no longer seem to be bustling from one place to the other without taking notice of what's going on around them. They enjoy the area. And I'd like to see us keep that environment where we are. So I please ask you to keep the ordinance in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Williams is next, followed by Dave Hauser.
My name is Jim Williams. I live in Springfield, Oregon, and I work at the University of Oregon bookstore. I've been working there for 40 years, 36 years as general manager. I love dogs. I really do. I had a big old Bernie, he lived to be 14, and a yellow lab Bailey. I love dogs, but not in a commercial area, an environment like the University District. It's too congested. There's cars, there's buses, there's bikes, and of course there's people. It's not a great environment for dogs to be, actually, if you're going to be there in a kind of a permanent place for quite a while. The environment is too frenetic, and it can cause aggressive behavior for dogs. Another issue isn't so much about the dogs, but it's rather the owner. Walking one's dog for exercise is surely one thing, but before the current ordinance, the issue was that dog owners who came to our area, and these were panhandlers, these were people selling drugs either covertly or openly, and there were some very aggressive, intimidating people that just hung out down in our area. It was so bad with the antisocial behavior that the merchant community faced a serious decline in business. Businesses who pay taxes here to the city of Eugene. As sure as I'm standing here, if you approve allowing dogs back into the University District, we'll be facing the same problems as before. The increased parking fees that are now administered up at the University District is already a problem for our customers. Having the panhandlers and drug dealers back in our area would be a disaster. Thank you, and please vote no on this proposal.
Thank you. Dave Hauser is next, followed by Jim Antonini.
Mayor and Councilor, I'm Dave Hauser, 1401 Willamette. I am here tonight representing the Eugene Chamber of Commerce, Downtown Eugene, Inc., and the University District Business Association. As folks were describing what the West University Commercial District looked like in the early 90s, I was reflecting on what a great success story it's been. Partnerships between the university, the city, businesses in the area have really resulted in a remarkable turnaround of a very unsafe commercial district. And you can probably not point to any single item as resulting in that remarkable turnaround, but the prohibition of dogs in that area is an important piece and one that should be continued. The problems that have been talked about that it addresses are dogs that are left unattended in the public right-of-way, pet waste littering the sidewalks, creating a safety hazard, and travelers with pets on a rope that can create a very intimidating environment for customers of businesses in that area. Dismantling this component or any other component of what has been a remarkable strategy just really makes no sense at this point in time. And it would, I assume, start the path toward the kind of environment that existed pre-1997. In fact, given the important role of this ordinance in addressing public safety in the University Commercial District, I think it would be worthwhile to explore extending the ban of dogs to pieces of our downtown with the same sort of provisos that exist in the West University District that don't apply to residents, to service animals, to police dogs, dogs in cars, perhaps some other exemptions that work for downtown that make it unique from the West University District. But I really think the council would be well served to have a work session to see whether elements of this remarkably successful public safety strategy in the West University Business District can apply to the problems that plague our downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Antonini is next, followed by M.J. Peterson.
Mayor, councilors, I'm Jim Antonini. I live in Eugene. I'm the general manager of Atia Brothers on East 13th and have been for almost 28 years now. And so I've lived through those issues that were so uncomfortable in lifestyle and safety for our customers and for our our family, if you will, in the West University neighborhood. I couldn't state better than the preceding people all of the issues, but I would say what's important is, I think, the balance that we have up there. It is an area that is eclectic. We're all, just a little bit different. It's very interesting, and it's fun. Everybody gets a perspective up there, and everybody that isn't aggressive or careless or unlawful. I mean, we are a very interesting place to go, and I wouldn't want that to be lost because we'd have a return to antisocial behavior, scary behavior, and that sort of thing. So I'd ask that you'd vote to keep this ban in the West University of the dogs. Thank you.
Thank you. So M.J. Peterson is next, followed by Zachary Vishnoff.
Okay, I want to make sure we're talking of right Peterson. I put MJ as my initials. I go by Pete Peterson.
Yep, that's you.
Okay. I'm from Harrisburg. I own the Red Rooster Barbershop. I've been in business in the campus area for 41 years. You've heard stories about the dogs that were not necessarily good, but let me tell you about the dogs that are good. People that have leashes and they are walking their dog. Unfortunately, they don't use a 6-foot leash. We have leashes that will reach from me to you. They tie them down. Just this week, I had a customer come up to the area, tie his dog to the walk leading up to I have a little stairway with a wrought iron rail, ties his dog there. The leash is long enough that he follows them. He's got my door blocked by his leash. And I asked the gentleman if he would mind moving his dog back, shorten the leash. He said, well, what do you want me to do? I said, I'd like you to take and move your dog back so you don't block the two businesses that are here. People just don't think. I've watched many people go out there. Right now, we've just built streets. We expanded the sidewalks so you can move tables and chairs for the restaurants and coffee shops. These same dogs are going to be out there if you take this away. And I can't imagine what that's going to do with the dogs in people's tables with food. I've watched them tie their dogs up. The people go into a restaurant so that the leash is completely across the sidewalk. And these are people that are caring about their dog. The ones that don't care, dog fights, you can't believe the things. And on being the barbershop that I am, I go out in front of the shop when I'm not busy. It's a small little shop. And I see the things on the street. I watched 2 pit bulls in a pickup truck directly in front of my shop as the owner sat down at Taylor's having a drink. Every time a person passed within a matter of 6 feet, the dogs come out, not out of the pickup, but as far as they could reach without coming out of the pickup. And they were quite ferocious. And I went to the owner and I told him, hey, look, your dogs are going to bite someone pretty quick. They've scared the daylights out of a couple of Asian students that walk by your truck. So what? These are caring people. Now, I'm just telling you again, these are the good dogs. There's so many bad ones that if you take this away, you won't believe the kind of things that'll happen. I could go on and on and on with the drug deals and the different things. I've been mugged. I've been attacked by the different people and dog owners. There's nothing to having them sick their dog on you. And we don't need that. Thank you.
Thank you. Zachary Vishnoff is next.
Zachary Vishnoff, Ward 3. I'm seeing the real problem here is bundling issues. There's a rule about solving problems is the first step is you clearly define your problem. As far as I can tell, this is, a ban on dogs riding skateboards. We actually had that on campus at one time. But this is bizarre. The whole skateboard thing has really changed. Barbie rides a skateboard now. I mean, there are longboards. They used to go down the bike path. Your bike path was just eliminated on 13th on these blocks. So I would say just take a few deep breaths, separate the dog issue from the skateboard issue, because you're not chasing gypsies around the neighborhood. And then also separate the enforcement issue. This is something that's in the closet right now, but the momentum of the University of Oregon is to shut down the campus substation. That is to be thanked for all the success stories you just heard. It's not a little law on the books, not some little number that did this. It's mostly Randy Ellis and the other volunteers and the other police that used that station. July 1st of next year, U of O has announced the whole contract ends. So I'm saying there's about 4 things going on here at once. Now, I don't underestimate this council and the city manager's ability to rush forward full speed ahead without proper information. That is the culture around here, okay? I expect that to happen. But you have a chance to not do that. So you separate your dog issue. You gather information about the dogs, okay? You have a hearing on that. And you do it in a timely way that adequately tells people on that street, hey, you got a dog? We want to hear from you. You don't just hear from a handful of people. That's wrong. Okay. Then you have a separate hearing that is skateboards. Otherwise, this gets used as selective enforcement for targeting certain people potentially. While some people who are rich go by on a skateboard and don't have any problems, another person with the wrong hairstyle goes by on a skateboard and gets pulled over. There's a whole bunch of issues here. Don't bundle when you do public policy. I don't underestimate your ability to rush forward tonight with very little information, but I think it's a very, very bad idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing and ask council for comments or questions. Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I didn't know that Dave Hauser was going to make the suggestion he made tonight, but I agree with him, and it's one that I've been thinking about as well. So I guess I'd like to ask Beth to put out a council poll for having a work session on extending the dog ordinance to the downtown area. Thank you.
Councilor Ortiz.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight and giving us their opinions of this issue. I just wanted to make one comment. There are no bad dogs, just bad dog owners. People tend to train dogs in a manner of which they choose, and they're just little helpless creatures, and I think that the dog's experiences lead them to behave the way that probably isn't very good. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Councilor Taylor.
Thank you. I haven't seen a dog panhandling or skateboarding or deliberately leaving waste on the streets or dying itself on a long leash. I think there are already laws to prevent the things that are unsafe. Maybe we need a law against panhandling, I don't know. But there are laws against leaving the dog waste. There are laws that require you to have a license for the dog. And I think there are other ways to take care of irresponsible dog owners and other irresponsible people, other than saying you can't, like you have to have a dog leashed. Why can't people just walk through this area? I know that some people can if they're dressed the right way. I haven't tried it myself. I used to be in that neighborhood a lot up until through the 80s, pretty much, late 70s and early 80s. And I don't know if that's before. I never felt unsafe, but I don't know if that was a good time before the bad times you're talking about or not. But I don't think anything that's unsafe is caused by the dogs. The last time there was a public hearing on this was just before I joined the council in 1996. I've been here a while, and I remember at that time that many people testified against the ordinance prohibiting dogs. Not that they wanted to hang out there with their dogs, but a lot of them were female professors who were working in their offices at night and wanted to go, if they went to their office at night, they wanted to have a dog with them, and I think you could understand that. And they were told they couldn't walk through this area, so sometimes they would have to go around in a circular way, go further, and maybe go into places that weren't as safe or as well lighted in order to get there. And there were other people, I know the people who live there can walk out with their dogs, but they have visitors, and those people were here last time too. University isn't back in session yet, so many of those people don't even know we're having this hearing. But there were people who wanted to visit friends in the area at night, women who wanted to visit friends, and they wanted their dogs with them when they left to walk home in the dark. And the law prohibits their having them, because it prohibits you walking through certain streets, even with the dog on a leash, a short leash. And I think it was intended to stop some behavior that is separate from whether there's a dog there or not. As for dogs, I think that there are laws, and if there are not, we could enact laws that would take care of the bad behavior without saying a decent person not bothering anyone can't walk through with a dog on a leash. Thank you.
Councilor Zelenka?
Thank you all for coming out this evening. I too am a dog lover, have a great dog, Murphy, and I remember the mid-'90s and what that area was like, and I agree with Dave Hauser. It is a great thing that's happened in that area. It's not one thing that has changed that area and made it go from an unsavory and unsafe place to a safe place, but it's the cumulative total of a bunch of little things, I think. And I think this one fits under the category, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This works. One of the statistics in the AIS agenda item summary is really kind of telling to me. During the past 5-year period, 10 citations in this issue on this issue, 3 in the last 2 years. Same period, the 2 years, 2009, 2010, there were 512 calls for citywide for aggressive or dogs, and so that's 3 versus 512. I think this one works. This is a very confined area that we're talking about. It's a very small area, and it's part of a mix of things that works. I'm not sure about expanding it, but I'd be willing to hear more.
Councilor Brown?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm wondering if there's not some, I certainly sympathize with the business. Being a business owner downtown, I fully appreciate your problems associated with a lot of street people hanging out with their pit bulls and blocking the sidewalk and all the other stuff. And it's really good that that's not happening up there anymore, because it was, starting not to be a very pleasant place to go. And I understand this is probably a little component of that. But speaking to what Councilor Taylor said, I've just been reading the ordinance over, and residents of the area can walk their dogs through there. They're not going to stop and hang out and chat. I'm just wondering if maybe we could reach an understanding of the people that are visiting friends that are not stopping from their car to their friend's house, or going from their car to the university at night, a woman. If there could be some exceptions that would be accepted by the businesses and the police department, to try to find a little bit of middle ground to address those concerns, which are very real concerns for women, especially late at night. And but otherwise, yeah, it's a bad deal when you got all these people with millions of dogs in a very small area, and they're not behaving well. It's really bad. But I'd like to see maybe some adjustment here, not rewrite the whole thing necessarily, but expand it just from residents of the area to people passing through on their way to work. Maybe we could just add that phrase, because they're not going to be stopping and causing the problems like associated with that we see with the rest of the ordinance. Thank you.
Counselor Farr?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm kind of sad to state that back in 1996, when this ordinance was last brought before us, the last public testimony, I was on the council then. I think I was 16 years old. We had a lot of testimony, and I don't remember specifically the testimony, but I remember the gist of it. A lot of people were threatened. A lot of people were very emotional about it, and I wonder, Manager, if it would be possible to pull the testimony that was given at that point in time, back in 1996, and include it in part of the record, because I really suspect that the issues that were brought up at the time in a very emotional fashion have really not gone away. So I'd like to, if it's possible, to get those distributed to the council so we can see and hear the things that were said back then, which once again, I suspect they have not gone away.
Yeah, we'll take a look and see if we can access those.
Thank you.
Counselor Poling?
Thank you. Well, Councilor Zelinka pretty much said most of what I was going to say. This is one of those issues where if it's not broken, there's no need to fix it. But, I look at this part of this ordinance as just one of the many tools that has been used in that specific area to make it a successful area. And it's not only this part of this ordinance, but it's also the hard work of the law enforcement personnel, the business owners who thank you very much for sticking it out down in that area and making it what it is. I think that is probably the most major contributing factor to the success of that area. And with success, you bring more and more people to the area to actually participate in the businesses and what's going on in that community. So, you look at the stats over the time period, like Councilor Zelinka mentioned, and it's obvious that this is a very good ordinance. And I myself don't see any reason to change it, to alter it, or to have it removed. I'd like to see it remain the way it is.
Counselor Pryor?
Thank you. I appreciate everybody coming out to speak tonight, and I also want to say I really appreciate the comments I've heard from the folks up here. I also agree. I think it's a great idea to have a work session to talk about this in greater detail, because I think there are some comments that have come up. Councilor Brown mentioned perhaps some tweaks that could be made. I do not want to vote to end right now. I think leave it in place. Whether it's not an issue of whether, if it's not broke, don't fix it. There may be some adjustments we can make later on. Don't change anything right now. Just leave it the way it is. Have a work session to talk about the ability to perhaps use this tool or some elements of this tool downtown, because if it's worked as successfully in that area as it has, there may be portions of it or components of it, modified or not, that might be useful in downtown. We do have some challenges there. So I very much would love to continue the conversation. So I'm not going to vote to support the repeal, and I very much support the idea of having additional conversation about how this or elements of this might be useful in the downtown area. So I look forward to that conversation.
I guess the thing that I would ask of staff is, to my knowledge, and I kind of asked a general question today, I don't know of any recent, since I've been mayor, I have not heard any complaints about the ordinance in that area, so I would appreciate having that information. Did you want to?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You're absolutely correct. There haven't been any recent complaints from residents about the dog ban. To the contrary, there's been very little enforcement and very high compliance in that area. And to answer Councilor Farr's question, we do have a synopsis of the public comments that were made, and so we're glad to provide that.
Thank you. The only other comment I wanted to make was about, because we get this a lot, is about panhandling, and perhaps our city lawyer could phrase it better than I can, but to my knowledge, panhandling in general is considered to be asking for charitable contributions, and is considered to be freedom of speech unless you're impeding someone on the sidewalk or on the street or something of that sort. Is that pretty much? Yeah. So we are constrained by the Oregon Constitution from prohibiting panhandling. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. All right, so one more comment from, two more, and then we're going to go on. So, Councilor Taylor?
Thank you. You say you have had no complaints. I know that a lot of people don't know the ordinance exists, and I've talked to some people who do walk through there with their dogs and haven't been stopped. So I think there's probably selective enforcement. And then I have a question. I wonder if we ban smoking on the streets, if that might have a better result.
We'll take that as a rhetorical question for the moment.
Yes, I think so.
No,
Yes.
Well, I would like to see us consider saying that you can't smoke on the public streets. And I think that a lot of people who cause problems would not be there if they couldn't smoke.
Councilor Zelenka?
One last final comment, something that Councilor Poling said, which was that I think a big part of this is a credit to the folks that have stuck it out down there and made a real good, my hat's off to you. 41 years of business in one place is amazing, and congratulations on that. And also to the rest of the folks in that neighborhood who have been there a very long time.
Well, thank you. We're going to go on to the next hearing item. The second public hearing is an ordinance concerning fire and EMS response fees to out-of-area users. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. As the city continues to find ways to reduce its costs while looking for additional fair, stable, and equitable revenues, the Fire Department is requesting adoption of this ordinance to provide a mechanism for billing non-residents who utilize emergency response from general fund-supported fire and EMS resources. The proposal is for fees for assistance at vehicular accidents when fire companies respond and provide assistance. This move is consistent with what a number of other jurisdictions have imposed within the area across the state and country. The proposal does not adversely affect anyone living within the cities of Eugene and Springfield or one of the current fire protection contract districts served by either city, or a member of either city's fire med program or a member of a reciprocating agency's fire med program.
Okay. Thank you, City Manager. I'm going to open the public hearing. There's no one signed up to speak. I'm going to close the public hearing. I don't see anyone in the queue with questions or... Okay. There wasn't until I said it. Councilor Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Groves, I just have a couple questions about how will this affect or will this affect the outlying rural areas as far as if we're charging those fees, will there be more of a desire for the rules to want to bring people into our city limits?
It's hard, it's hard for me to respond to that question without knowing what's in somebody's mind. I will say that Santa Clara Rural Fire Protection District as well as Lane County Fire Protection District Number 1 have this type of fee on the books that they can impose on our residents right now. When I talk to the chiefs, my sense is it's not something that's acted on frequently, but it is on the books. Likewise, Goshen Rural Fire Protection District has the same type of fee that they can impose on our residents. I can't say whether this will be an incentive to move into the city of Eugene, though.
Okay.
All right. Councilor Poling?
Well, I'm a little conflicted on this one. I understand the reasoning for the additional fee. And is that estimated amount, is that correct? It's $12,600 in annual revenues based on past previous calls for service?
We believe that's a very conservative number. This is not something information we generally collect unless we actually transport a patient. Mm-hmm. You know, if we respond to a car fire or something like that.
And how many years did you go back and look at the numbers to come up with that number of 12,006?
I believe we just ran it for 2 years.
2 years? Okay. Well, you know, I know some people that, based on my experience out in the street for many years, that some people hesitant to go along in an ambulance at the scene of an accident or assault or whatever because they just didn't have the money. And in my opinion, they needed the medical attention. And I'm just fearful that this may cause somebody to say, don't call the fire department out because I can't afford it. And in the long run, it may cost somebody their life even. And I just wonder if that $12,600 of annual income is worth one life. I understand that it's a conservative estimate, and there's no telling what's going to happen in the future, how many of these calls that our fire department's going to respond to. So that's why I'm a little bit conflicted on it.
Well, Councilor, one of the reasons we at least limited this first initiative of this type to motor vehicle accidents is because your vehicle insurance will pay for this. We talked about expanding it beyond and also including emergency medical calls, but then that gets into more of what I believe you're speaking to. But I do understand your concern.
And not to be making any plugs for anything specific, but does this affect people that are enrolled in the Fire Med program?
No. People enrolled in the Fire Med program are specifically excluded, even though that pertains to ambulance. Likewise, people in reciprocal Fire Med programs would be excluded from this fee.
Well, I know I've been enrolled in the Fire Med program since I think the very first year it started, and here about 6-7 years ago, I had to be basically rescued from a boat out at Fern Ridge Reservoir and transported to a hospital. And that trip alone, all the years I've been a member of Fire Med, that pretty much covered just that one trip alone. So, it is definitely worth the investment in that program. Thank you.
That might qualify as an ad.
Thank you.
It's not an endorsement.
Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, what percentage of the area subject to this is in Zone 3?
Geographically, it's a large area, but population-wise, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head because it's, if you're referring to the recent agreement with Lane Rural Fire Rescue to assume responsibility for a portion of that area under IGA, it's not the entire Zone 3. City of Eugene, we retained the portion of Zone 3 that we can respond to faster.
Okay.
So I don't have the exact population because it's kind of a line that isn't basically broken into something we can measure at this point.
Well, I appreciate all your efforts to try and get us a little bit more innovative in how we deal with some of that stuff in the outlying areas, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Councilor Zelenka.
So I, too, am a member of Fire Med, and it is a good deal. And so the people that this would affect, could they join Fire Med?
It depends what area they are from.
Yeah.
We frequently have people traveling up and down the I-5 corridor that we are responding on, sometimes commercial trucking, where we actually have very involved operations that we're on for prolonged periods of time. This gives us a mechanism to bill for that as well. As far as if it's somebody in a rural outlying area in Lane County, there's generally a Fire Med program that they can enroll in. Yes, sir.
Okay. And so this would be motor vehicle accidents only, and I'm glad to hear that it gets covered by insurance, so that helps me with Councilor Polling's concern, because I had the same one. The other question I have is about that it would be only applied to out-of-area persons, meaning persons residing outside the cities of Eugene and Springfield fire first response area.
Yes, sir. That's because we also protect 7 fire contract districts through 8 separate contracts. So we already serve a population larger than the 2 cities of Eugene and Springfield.
Right. So how would someone find out if they were in the fire response, first response area?
Well, they can call us, but it's also on your property tax bill, and it says what fire protection district you're in.
Oh, so what would it say on if you are? It says Eugene, Springfield.
Well, it says Eugene, Springfield, or it would say Eugene 1, Zumwalt, Bailey Spencer, Willowkinsey, Rainbow. There's 7 of them in total.
Yeah, the only thing I look at on my property tax bill is that number at the bottom, so I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Okay, so So roughly, that's the area, that's the city of Springfield and the city of Eugene.
It's about 240,000 residents.
So it's most of everybody in the area.
Correct.
Okay. Great. That's all I had. Thanks.
Councilor Ortiz?
Chief Groves, can you speak to the usage of Lifeline in regarding to transporting accident victims, and do we bill for them, or do they bill separately?
Lifeline bills for themselves, however, they are a member of our Fire Med Plus program.
So this would not include the already outrageous costs of helicopter transport?
No, it's a very expensive asset.
Okay. Because it's been my experience in the years that I worked in the emergency room that before the medics would go to Walton or to, High Pass Road or wherever, and now it seems like since they've been located in Eugene, they're used a lot more for those outlying areas, not only with motor vehicle. So would this also include like logging accidents?
No, this would be motor vehicle accidents
totally motor
only.
vehicle, okay.
And our units are still responding to those same calls. If it's critical transport and time and distance is an issue and Lifeline is available, then we utilize that service.
So we do not get to bill, though, if we do not transport?
I'm sorry, say again, please.
Do we get to bill if we do not transport?
It depends what the crews on the fire engine or ladder truck do. If they are extricating a patient, for example, and they do not need transport, we would probably bill for the extrication. Under this circumstance, we would not be billing for an ambulance transport.
Okay.
Sometimes people need to be extricated who are uninjured.
Councilor Farr?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question. This is a public hearing, and council will have a chance to debate this when it comes back for action?
Correct.
So this is a public hearing, not a scheduled council debate. Thank you.
So the thing that would be helpful to me, Chief, as I've tried to understand the parameters of this, is in places where they have charged fees like this, do we have, I don't know if there's a way that they find out the effect that has on people reporting, because I heard that concern here. So if there's any kind of information, anecdotal or otherwise, that you can glean for that to bring to us when we discuss this, so we kind of understand how it's played out in other places that have done the same thing, I think that would be really helpful.
I think I can answer that right now. Generally, motor vehicle accidents, it's not the injured party who makes the call. It's generally somebody passerby that's dialing on their cell phone.
Okay.
It's very seldom that it's the involved parties.
Okay, so in fact, someone else will make the call, and that will bring things into action, so it won't necessarily, very seldom is it the person who's actually involved who's saying, I don't think I'll make the call because I'm afraid I'll have to deal with a
Correct.
fee.
It's people that are calling it in, and there's a very high percentage of calls that we receive. I'm sure the police do as well, and you get there and our assistance is not needed. You would not be billed for that.
Okay. And if we have any information on how many of those are really out of the area, that would be, really out of the area, like out of state or far away from us, that would be interesting for us to know, to know exactly what we're trying to get reimbursement for, right? So, all right, thank you very much, and I'm going to move on to the next hearing item. So the next hearing is on ward redistricting scenarios. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Because of population changes over the last 10 years, Eugene's ward boundaries must be adjusted to better provide for equal representation. Tonight's public hearing on ward redistricting invites input on two main scenarios. The council will meet in a work session next Monday night to look at options and provide direction, with final action scheduled in October.
Thank you. I'm going to open the public hearing, and again, I'm going to state that those wishing to speak during the public hearing have submitted a complete request to speak form to the information desk prior to the beginning of the public hearing. And when you come to the podium, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward, if known. You have 3 minutes to comment. There are lights on the podium. The yellow light indicates you have 15 seconds to complete your comments. The red light indicates the end of 3 minutes. We have 3 people signed up for this. The first person is Susan Tavakolian, and Randy Prince is the second.
Good evening, Mayor Piercy and members of the Eugene City Council. I'm Susan Tavakolian, co-president of the League of Women Voters of Lane County. Our address is 338 West 11th Street in Eugene. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you regarding the important issue of redistricting to ensure that each Eugene resident is equally represented on the City Council. The League is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages voter education and informed citizen participation in government. We have been following closely the discussions concerning the redrawing of the city's ward boundaries as required after each federal census. The League has been particularly interested in two elements of the redistricting efforts: the process that was developed by the city staff and council for involving the public as the ward boundary changes were being considered, and adherence to the recommended criteria and rationale for making the changes presented in final scenarios 1 and 2. Our comments are limited to these two issues. The redistricting process includes setting a timeline for completion of the task, reviewing information about the 2001 work, discussing the current ward boundaries and their relationship to changes, charges to staff including the use of new technology, and keeping citizens in the information loop with opportunities to comment and interact about proposals. The League believes that the Council has accomplished this task very well. Members opted to serve as the redistricting review group themselves, to rely on accurate census data and propose different scenarios using new technologies, to establish criteria for evaluating proposals, to provide public meetings for discussion and online viewing of maps, and to have the process completed by early October. The League at the national, state, and local levels has developed criteria which we believe help ensure the promise of one person, one vote that preserves representative democracy. When we reviewed the City Council's ward boundaries scenarios 1 and 2, the following elements guided our discussion. Each ward should have the same number of people within the range of plus or minus 3%. Boundaries should be drawn without consideration of the residence of current elected officials. Each ward should be contiguous and as compact as possible. The population of each ward should be based on the number of people counted in the 2010 census and not based on future growth. And current boundaries should be used as a starting point, keeping communities of interest together as well as using natural features such as rivers and roads as dividing lines. The League makes no recommendation concerning which of the two scenarios should be chosen. We believe that while each has both advantages and disadvantages, each also does a respectable job of adhering to the League's criteria. We commend the City Council and its staff for developing a reasoned and equitable redistricting plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy Prince is next, followed by Rick Crinklaw.
Randy Prince, Ward 3. I'd like to support the idea of linking neighborhood association boundaries with council boards as much as possible. I'm here tonight as the NLC co-chair because this issue has sort of fallen through the cracks. It's unfortunate. We were approached by city staff. We did get a presentation, but the timing seemed to be off. It was like, yeah, we're here, but the council set the criteria last night. However, the opinion during our discussion in LC was pretty clear. We'd like to see some correspondence. At this point, we're kind of on our own. I did submit some analysis in the form of a spreadsheet. I don't want to neglect the value of the chart you did receive in your packet, although there are some errors. But what's clear is that they were not used as a criteria in the redistricting. There is a mutual benefit in trying to line up the boundaries. For neighborhood associations and neighbors, they'd like to be able to look to their association to say, well, we've got a counselor, or we've maybe got two. We want access to your representatives through the neighborhood association that benefits us. And you counselors would like access to your constituents, and sometimes we can help you with that. We have newsletters, we have email, we hold meetings. And the people who come to those meetings spread the word. It's cheaper than advertising, and especially in our more active associations, I think it really helps us to engage with the citizens. Of course, we do other things. We do work directly with staff, and that's a lot of our work. We're also trying to build our strength and get more engagement. But it is pretty clear that these boundaries in both of the scenarios did not use the neighborhood association boundaries as criteria. A good guideline, let's have the least number of neighborhood associations per counselor, the least number of counselors within each neighborhood association. I did give you a chart. It is a complicated issue. I'm running out of time. There, of course, some neighborhood associations are huge. There's going to be a couple of counselors per them. Some aren't so active, but let's presume that we're going to build them all. The real problem is when you get fragments. 20% here, you're not going to have the counselor come to the neighborhood association if they just represent a small part of it. And these fragments in there. There are some errors in the chart. More analysis is needed, but I'm particularly concerned with associations like Jefferson and the downtown neighbors where they've got 3 counselors. I don't know how you're going to decide which one of you go, if you all 3 go. I think that these scenarios can be tweaked to make them line up and serve the goal of having an identifiable line of communication between you counselors and us neighborhood associations and us associations to you. It'll benefit all. You've got a lot invested in the neighborhood associations. Also, I want to mention you're going to have 2 new neighborhood associations added. Those are factored in. Well, they will be added if you vote for them. And those are added into my analysis in all 3 scenarios. And take a look. Think about it.
Thank you. Rick Crinklaw is our last speaker on this particular item.
Mayor Piercy, members of the council, good evening. My name is Rick Crinklaw. I reside in Eugene, Ward 8. I am chairman of the Local Government Affairs Council for the Eugene Chamber of Commerce, and it is in that role that I am here this evening representing the chamber and for which my testimony is attributed. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony on the current redistricting process. Early this summer, the Eugene Chamber's Local Government Affairs Council spent considerable time developing criteria regarding ward redistricting. The criteria was shared with the council during an earlier work session. We are pleased to see that the criteria the council adopted was very similar to what the chamber presented. That criterion considers equality of population, contiguity, geography, natural and existing boundaries, communities of interest, natural groupings, and transportation links and barriers. After considering both of the redistrict scenarios before you, the Chamber feels that scenario number 1 aligns much more closely with the Chamber's previously adopted criteria. Scenario 1 gets closer to having equal population in each ward and stays within natural existing boundaries, such as the river. Furthermore, the Council expressed a desire in its previous work session to keep boundaries as close to the current ones as possible. Scenario 1 accomplishes this objective much better than number 2. While scenario number 2 provides some interesting ideas, we don't see the need for that level of change at this time. The Eugene Chamber of Commerce encourages the Council to move forward with the adoption of redistricting scenario number 1 in keeping with the Council's previously adopted criteria. Thank you for consideration.
Thank you. So I'm going to close the hearing and ask council if they have any comments or questions. Councilor Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi. So I had, for some reason, I really apologize. My mind is somewhere else. I had given city staff some information on my desire to look at Ward 7 to include the Highway 99 corridor in total and trade it with Councilor Farr, doing some horse trading, because he said he wanted the airport. So I was trying to see if that was something that was possible, and I was wondering if the numbers had come back or if we had looked at it.
We took a look at it, and we think that that kind of modification would still allow you to meet your population target. And in your work session next week, you'll have an opportunity to look at these 2 scenarios, and if there are changes you want to land on, to give us that direction at that time.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Councilor Zelenka?
I'd like 2 pieces of information for the work session. One is a neighborhood association overlay onto the scenarios, so that you can see their cross sections. And then the second one is one that I asked for, which was trying to modify Ward 3 so that potentially more of the folks that are, it handles the issue of low voter turnout in parts of the Ward 3 district with, unfortunately, students, while they contribute greatly to our community and could contribute greatly to our elections, they don't tend to vote as high. And so I'm wondering if there's a way to not exacerbate that problem in this scenario one. Thanks.
All right. Well, I just want to thank everyone. Appreciate the comments and actually appreciate the fact that we seem to be working in the right direction. We'll just keep on at it till we get to what we feel is the perfect place here, or near perfect. The fourth hearing tonight is an ordinance concerning what we call MUPTI, the Multiple Unit Housing Property Tax Exemptions. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The public hearing for MUPTI is on an ordinance that extends the sunset date for the downtown plan area from January 1st, 2012 to January 1st, 2022. The ordinance also allows commercial uses to be considered a public benefit and a part of the project that gets exempted. As before, each MUPTI would come to council for consideration and approval on a case-by-case basis. This ordinance only addresses MUPTI within the downtown plan area. Staff will return later in the fall to talk about MUPTI in other areas in the context of Envision Eugene.
Okay, I'm going to open the hearing, and we have no one signed up, so I'm going to close the hearing. I'm going to ask if there are any comments or questions from council. I see no one there. I think they're all geared up for the next conversation. So with that, we finish our business of the evening, and thank you very much.